So Rust London is the community for people who are interested in the Rust programming language based in London. I say that technically with a little asterisk because we're open to everyone everywhere, but we do meet geographically in London. So it is the Rust community chapter for London Rust stations. We were one of the first Rust community chapters to exist. There's always this weird competition between Rust London and Rust Oregon because Mozilla had offices in London, but Mozilla was founded in Oregon, if I'm to be correct. And there's always this kind of like, hey, who came first, Rust Oregon or Rust London? And because Rust London started out of the Mozilla offices. So it's one of the, I mean, we say we're the first, but Rust Oregon also say they're the first. And then it's like, well, okay, and it's friendly and it's fun, but it's great that we've been one of the longest standing Rust community chapters since the language's inception.
Nice. And yeah, what kind of activities do you do in Rust London?
So we have a structure as a meetup group to focus on engaging the community in a peer based learning focus. I am a big believer in peer based learning. I'm a big believer in communities being built through peer based learning. And that's what we try to foster at Rust London. So we have three kinds of community events. We have the London Talks, which is a conventional meetup. It's a meetup that you're used to where someone stands in front of the audience and gives a presentation. Maybe it's a company, maybe it is an individual who wants to share a project they're working on, or someone wants to teach a concept. So that's the London Talks. Then we also have the Rust London Code Dojo. The Code Dojo is an evening of directed learning. So you can think of it as a university lecture, like a university lecture, where someone teaches you for an evening. We go from zero to hello world and beyond in an evening of directed learning. So you bring your laptop and someone walks you through uh, an evening of learning with the community. Then we have the Hack and Learn, which is a hangout. The Hack and Learn is designed to be a environment and an event that fosters peer-based learning. So we just have a room with a minimal agenda. The room will be split up, and there'll be tables set around, and each table will have its own uh, focus, and people can just self-organize around a table that makes sense for them. So we'll have a table for rustlings. We'll have a table for people who just want to read the Rust book. We'll have tables for people who have their own personal projects and they just want someone to look over their shoulder and uh, give them some advice and tips to collaborate with. There'll be tables where people just want to chat about things in the language. There's pizzas and there's drinks. And again, it's about fostering learning and growth in a peer based environment. So, those are our three community events, which we focus on at Rust London. And that is what we try to cycle through every month. So, you get something different every month.
Wow, that makes me very jealous that I don't live in London.
Oh, man. You're always welcome. You're always welcome, Marco.
Are these three kinds of event also open to online participants?
Yes, we try to, based on the venue that we partner with, we always want to make it open. and we always want to try and include our London diaspora. I call it Rust London diaspora. This was something that was a very important thing during the pandemic. So when the pandemic hit everyone, essentially, we had to pivot very fast to become an online community. And I learned a lot of lessons through the pandemic that people still need a place to go. People still want a community to connect with. So we used Zoom and we became an online community very quickly. We were the most active London community through the pandemic, and that actually allowed us to open up our scope and actually open up our community base to a global audience, because it's just a Zoom link, right? So we had people from Nigeria, from New Zealand, from America, from continental Europe signing in and becoming a part of the Rust London community, because at the time that was the only community that was really active. So we want to keep that community. We don't want to just abandon people who we have made a connection with abroad. It's difficult with venues because not every venue is set up with remote access, but we will be getting back into hybrid meetups where we will have a dedicated section for people who want to dial in wherever they are in the world, who want to be honorary London Rustaceans. They can come in and they can be a part of the community and be a part of the community events as well. So absolutely, yes, we do try to facilitate hybrid meetups as much as we can.
Okay, and yeah, what are some tips that you will give for like online doing these hybrid things? Like, do you have,
Yeah.
for example, moderators that only cover
Yes.
the online part? Okay,
Yes. Yes, we do. Yes. Yeah, that's a very important part of our structure. We do have we have the Rust Code of Conduct, and we have online moderators who help facilitate conversation in the online rooms, and also help with let's say it's a hack and learn. You can set up breakup rooms in Google Meet and Google and Zoom as well. So the format translates from in person to hybrid or to virtual. You can replicate the feeling to an extent. I will be very like transparent on the fact that nothing really matches in person as an experience, but there are elements that you can replicate via
yeah,
virtual tools that will allow you to have a semblance of what it's like online. So using breakout rooms, for example, for different uh things that people want to do, making sure that you have moderators who can go through each room and ensure that everybody's okay and everything's being run smoothly. It's a very important part of what we want to foster as well. So yes, we do have a moderating team. It's very difficult because a lot of things fall down on me as the community lead, but I do have people who help from time to time with that as well.
I see. Yeah, that's great to hear for me for our listeners that don't live in London. And yeah, what do you think that makes like being in a local community very special with respect to like an online meetup?
Yeah, I believe that local community and having a constituency in your locale is one of the grassroots foundational components of building a strong, vibrant ecosystem. Zulip is great. Discord is great. Twitter, X, is great. All of those platforms are really important for the wider, bigger picture. Absolutely. But having in person, having community based, locale based communities where you can learn in a peer based environment, whether it's just a study group or it's a larger community, that is where the real magic happens, in my opinion. That's where you're able to really connect with people on a human level. Like I said, it's very important that the human component of everything that we do with technology is taken as seriously as the foundational parts of it. So, meeting up with people and learning from your peers is something that cannot, I feel, be replicated virtually. And I believe it's one of the most important parts of how a community and an ecosystem grows, because you're with the person, you are learning, you're on a journey together, you're going through the process together, you're getting direct feedback from that individual, and you're uh able to exchange ideas, exchange uh learnings and difficulties and trials in a way where it builds a connection that always leads on to more amazing things. You hear about all of the stories about how startups, they started in a bar with a napkin, and the ideas being drawn up on there. All of that happens in person because of a human connection in person. So I'm a very, very big advocate of that. I believe that community chapters are how communities really grow and connect and flourish.
Yeah, uh, I agree, and that's why I also like conferences because like it's
Absolutely. Yes.
even if you're not in a big city, you go there and you can meet all these awesome people. Yes.
Absolutely. And I'm really excited for this year in particular. I'm really excited as to how conferences are being used by the Rust project. And I'm really excited how it is allowing people to, come from behind the avatar and actually meet the person. It's like, oh, you approved my PR and I've
Yeah.
never actually met you in person before. It's so amazing to actually meet you. This is great. We saw that at Eurorust. We saw that at the first Rust Station. I'm very excited that there are so many people coming and utilizing Rust Nation as a meeting point. So some of the governance teams, the project teams, different domain focused project teams are all coming and utilizing Rust Nation as this focal point. Like, hey, let's meet up at Rust Nation. We can actually get some stuff done in person, right? Because we're actually there, and that's a really, really important part. And I know many other conferences that are going to be coming up this year are gonna utilize the same thing and give the same benefit. You have Rust NL coming up. You have, of course, Rust Conf is back, which we're very, very excited about. I'm also helping with Rust Conf as well. And we're really excited about what that means for the entire Rust ecosystem as a reset, and all of the unconfs that these different conferences are going to have. It's only going to help people reconnect and actually get things done in person, and also get a great exchange of ideas, a sense of growth, and we can actually push things forward. So, again, I'm very excited for this year. All of the different conferences. We have Rust Zurich, of course, Eurorust is back again as well. We're really excited about all of the different conferences that are going to be happening in 2024. Rust conferences are going to be happening in 2024, and the opportunity that gives people to connect in person.
Yeah, I will also mention RustLab since I'm
Of
Italian, so
course.
I'm
Yes,
very
yes,
proud
yes.
of it.
Of course. Rust Lab has been one of the longest standing Rust conferences as well. I think the Italian Rust scene is one of the sleeping giants in the ecosystem. I've just always come across so many amazing Italian Rust devs who have been very impactful for my own personal learning as well. I just want to give a couple of people a shout out. Luciano Mamino, uh, he's an incredible developer who has been great in terms of just helping me learn the language. And yourself, of course, I've seen you and I've watched you on Twitter throughout the years. It's been great following you on
Thank
online,
you.
which is this is why this is such a great full circle podcast for me. Of course, there's you know, the rock star, the author of zero to production in Rust, and so many other really, really talented and very friendly Rust developers from Italy who have made incredible contributions to the ecosystem. And Rust Lab as a conference is a great example of the culmination of that, you know, the grouping of all of people like that. And of course, Florence, how beautiful is Florence as a city, being able to go to Florence. So I have to get myself down to a Rust Lab one day.
Mm.
I know I have been in contact with the organizers. So yes, this year again, Rust Lab's going to be a great, great conference as well.
Great to hear that. Thank you. And yeah, I wanted to go back to what you said. Uh, I think I'm noticing that in conference, I see more and more spaces where people can work together,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
hacking spaces, stuff like that, and I really
Yes.
enjoy that. Yes, uh, and like I wanted to ask you, like we all want to see Rust succeed. We want to see the adoption to increase. What
Yes.
do you think is the role of Rust communities in this mission? Like, how can we help with this?
So Rust community chapters, the meetups, they are the foundation on which I believe adoption and success is built on. So you have one component, which is the peer-based learning, where individuals who are discovering the language empower themselves, learning in a peer-based environment, and just growing as someone who's learning the language as a Rustacean. Then that then leads into the other component, which is in person, is where enterprise discovers the language and discovers the community as well. I think the best way to uh, describe this benefit of adoption is, again, I'm going to paraphrase Lucas' story at TrueLayer, but I think it's also poignant because it's part of Russ London's story as well. So Luca, him being, you know, the person who was really a big advocate for Rust internally at TrueLayer, he wanted to show and prove and convince TrueLayer, who were a C sharp shop at the time, that this language is it. This is actually happening. And pushback that you'll normally get as a singular, you know, zealous advocate of the language is, well, there's nobody to hire, there's no community, like we there's nobody to train, there's no resources. You'll get all of the pushback because it's hard to adopt a new language. As cool as it is, and as great as it's seen to be on the bigger platforms online, you want to know that there are real people actually doing this. You want to know that there's actually stuff happening in your locale that makes sense. It's great that there are hundreds of thousands, potentially millions of people on Twitter and Discord all learning the language, and that's great. But what does that mean for a company in Zurich or a company in a specific locale like Rome or Lagos or in Hong Kong? Any locale there has to be an understanding that there is a ground base of individuals that you can connect with to see it viscerally. And that's what Russ London served for TrueLayer. When Luca approached me and he was like, dude, we'll host Russ London. I want to help out. He became a part of the organizing team. We'll the venue will take care of it. The pizzas, the drinks, will take care of it. We've got a great auditorium. Everything's set up. Let's just show, like, just bring the people. And the underlying plan that Luca had behind that was to show the CTO, the managers, that, hey, look, we've just had a meetup of Rust developers who've come into our office, 100 plus. At the time, we were getting, this was in 2019, we would average around 120, between 90 and 120 people per meetup, which was a large number of people. When we were hosting at Cloudflare, it was the same thing. We would end up with 150 upwards. So that was a great testament to the fact that, whoa, there's actually people interested in this. There's actually people building in this. And there is a recruitment base for us. So a lot of the local communities serve as a proving ground for companies to adopt the language. And as we consistently hosted at TrueLayer, they were like, okay, well, you know what? Let's pick a few of these folks up. Let's build out a Rust team from that. And now they've got one of the largest Rust teams teams that they in the city of London. So the key thing with in-person community chapters is they serve as a proving ground, and they serve as a validation for the language to companies in the specific locale, which is why it's great that people want to come to Rust London. But if you want Rust adopted in your city, um, if you want to uh, see the Rust jobs in your locale and even beyond, begin with starting a community in your locale, because it's great that Rust London, we grow really large, but London is already a big tech hub. It's one of the largest tech hubs in Europe, but we want to see that grow, and we want to see that expand in loads of other areas. I want to give a shout out to Rust Torino. I think Rust Torino have restarted their 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 meetups, and it's great to see that happening again. It's great to see that post-pandemic people are, restarting and trying to reignite community activities in their locale. And I think that is where we're gonna really see adoption, is through community chapters, local community chapters growing in their locales. I hope
Yeah.
that made sense.
Yeah, absolutely. It makes a lot of sense because, like, of course, you can look at numbers online. I don't know, number of pull requests so in
Mhm,
Rust,
mhm,
on
mhm.
GitHub, and so on. But like when you go to a meetup or a conference and you see, I don't know, 300 people in one room,
Exactly.
it's
Exactly.
it's
Exactly.
different. Yes.
100%. Yes.
And so, yeah, you let's say that somebody's listening and is hyped about this and wants to start a local community, maybe in their town or something like
Yes.
that. What are some tips that you will give to them?
Okay, so this is actually part of what I am helping the foundation with. So I have a formal role in helping empower individuals who want to start local Rust communities, especially in areas outside of Europe and America, because we want to see Rust as a global language really represented as a global language. So the first step that I always state to anybody is start small and focus on peer based learning. So I believe, from my experience doing this, for this is the fourth year I've been doing this. I became I became the Rust London community lead in 2019, and what I've learned and what I've seen through that journey is starting through a hack and learn is the best way to begin that journey. Start with a study group where you're just focused on learning the language and consistently build from there. So when you have a hack and learn, you don't have to worry about necessarily even a venue, because you can do this in a coffee shop. I want to say again, another mentioned Rust Turkey, who have been doing similar things. They've been doing casual hack and learns and talks in coffee shops in Istanbul, which is amazing. And it's a great way for them to start building out their community base. And once you're able to build some consistency and you begin to build a core base of individuals who have come more and more, you'll start to see that you're ready to take the next step and move to the next level. But I would always say start with a study group, start with a hack and learn. Don't worry about doing talks. Don't worry about all the other bigger elements yet, because this becomes a job in and of itself. So if if you work full time and everything else, this is as big of a commitment as that. It is as time consuming as that. And what I have focused on is momentum through consistency. Once you're able to build some momentum by being consistent, you'll see that so many adjacent possibilities start to open up to you, because someone will turn up and be like, hey, Mike, I'm trying to convince my manager that we should use Rust. Maybe we can host you. Those things tend to happen through consistency and through the momentum of consistency. And as you do that, you'll see that a lot of opportunities unveil themselves in front of you. So start small, start with a study group, focused on peer-based learning. If you ever need any kind of resources, reach out to me via Twitter or via email. I'll share those details later. And focus on momentum through consistency.
I love what you said. Yes, because you like when you say, okay, I want to start this, but I need to find people who give talks. I need to find the venue.
Yeah.
And then instead you're saying you remove all the friction. Don't
Yes.
host talks at the beginning. Organize this in a coffee shop, and so like
Yes.
then there are no more excuses. I love it, but still, you said it's a big time commitment, of course. Uh,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
the-
Which is why you have to make the cadence work for you. If you know that you can only do this once a quarter, then do it once a quarter. If you know that you can do this once a month, then do it once a month. Because the one of the things that will be very confusing, and it's one of the worst things really, is infrequent meetups, because people don't know whether this is a thing or not. So if you don't have a consistent cadence of people knowing, okay, I can expect this once a quarter, that's fine. And people will live with it and people will become used to it. Or people will be like, I can expect this once a month at this time of the month, right? That's fine. People can live with it. It's worse if you say, oh yes, I'm really enthusiastic, and you start once a week, and then it's like, oh, I can't actually keep this up because of life and so many other things that come your way. That confuses people and that fragments the community. So before even beginning to start anything to do with a community, first you need to ask yourself, what's in it for me? What am I doing this for? Because you're not going to receive any payment from this. Sponsorships only come later when you've actually shown that you can actually run a community consistently. So a lot of things come off your own back, especially at the beginning. So you need to really have the conversation with yourself. What are you doing this for? Like, what's in it for me? My agenda was wanting to be around people that I could learn from. Coming from a language like C++ and discovering Rust, it was a big mind trip for me, some of the concepts and everything else. So being able to be in a community that large where there were so many more experienced people than me, I wanted to keep that going. And it made sense for me because I felt like this was going to be the language to bank on. So the fact that everybody around me at the time was using Nightly, and there was so many cool people from different teams on the compiler team and everything else. When Mark had to leave London, I didn't want the community to just die and dissipate. I wanted to ensure that I could still be around people that I could learn from. So that was what was in it for me. And it's the same for other people. They need to know what's in it for them, because it's great to be altruistic about it, but in the long run, resentment will build if you don't really know what you're in it for, because it is a very, very taxing endeavor.
Definitely great advices, I think. Hopefully, like some people will be motivated by this.
Oh
Definitely, it
yes.
was
No,
inspiring,
no, no,
and
no,
so
absolutely.
maybe we will see a new Rust community flourish. Who
No,
knows?
absolutely. In the past, even just the past, let's say 18 months, we've seen so many new communities come about. Rust Ukraine, want to give them a special shout out, and so many other communities that are flourishing. Rust India, and again, that's another one that has been very dear to my focus because of just what that ecosystem means. The Rust Indian community is, again, potentially one of the biggest, and they have sub community chapters for each city and each region, and even regions. Because I mean, you talk about India, that's an incredibly massive landmass and populace of developers who are interested in language. So Rust Mumbai, Rust Hyderabad, Rust Delhi, Rust Chennai, Rust Chenderai, like so many sub communities from that make up the larger Rust India community. It's great to see them emerging, and it's great to see how they are starting to really become an important force in the Rust ecosystem. One of the lead maintainers for Clap, the Crate Clap, is from India. And I think a lot of their contributions need to be acknowledged, as well as the popular people that we all know and see as well. So it's also great to see the Rust community growing on the African continent as well, which is very dear to my heart. We're seeing Rust Kenya, and we're also seeing Rust Nigeria growing as well. And it's a very, very exciting time globally in the Rust ecosystem. There's a lot to be very positive about, and there's a lot to be very, very excited about in terms of the global adoption of an interest in the Rust programming language.
Absolutely, and thank you also for facilitating that this work. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.
Uh,
It's not easy.
yeah, I can imagine. This video was extracted from the RustShip podcast. You can find the full episode on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or your favorite podcast client. If you liked this video and you want to learn more about Rust, subscribe to the YouTube channel and follow me on LinkedIn, X, and Mastodon. You can also share it with your colleagues if you think they would like it. Bye!